Hello there, my name is Nachtalb, and today I want to talk to you about the targeting rules in the tabletop game A Song of Ice and Fire, the miniatures game by Simon. Well, the rule set of this game is actually quite good, and it's not very long, but it still makes a very complex and deep game experience. And most of the things in rules are quite clear, and the targeting rules are arguably the biggest problem the rule set has at the moment. It's obvious because this part of the rules sparks the most discussions around the community. I guess the most beginners in the game don't really understand how targeting works. Exactly, and there are, as I said, a lot of discussions about this and a lot of unclear interpretations how it works. And so I guess it's kind of helpful to have a relatively short video on this topic, trying to boil it down to the most important points here. The rules for targeting are in the rule set, but they are scattered all over the book, kind of, and that's why it's a bit hard to understand, but you can boil it down to some relatively easy points, which, if you follow them, makes it kind of easy to see who is targeting whom and when is targeting happening. So let's try to shed some light on this problematic topic here. So let's just have a look what the rules say on the topic and then conclude from this. So the first thing in the rulebook on rulebook page 5 is this sentence where the keyword target is explained, and it says target. This refers to the chosen recipient of an ability or effect, such as orders or tactics cards. So the most important thing here in this sentence, in my opinion, is the word chosen here, which implies that there has to be a choice made by the player who uses the ability or uses the effect. So there has to be some kind of choice involved who is receiving this effect. So this is the basic rule for targeting. It's mostly orders and tactics cards, but there could be NCU effects or abilities targeting units and similar things. So if we go a bit further in the rulebook, page 21, a paragraph about tactics cards in the trigger section, it says the unit triggering the tactics card, if any, is the target of that tactics card. So this basically means that every time there is a unit in the trigger of a tactics card, this unit is targeted by the tactics card. Then there's the sentence, but note that its effect might list additional targets as well. So this is a bit ambiguous. So there could be additional targets. So this is in hindsight to the rule we had before. There could be things in the text that make a choice for the player who is receiving this. It's not in this case, not in Ferocity, doesn't have a choice there for the player. But there could be effects where you have a choice who is receiving them. And this is noted here, that there might be additional targets. But always the unit in the trigger, if there is one in the trigger, is targeted by the tactics card as well. So a similar thing goes for orders. It's a bit different here. Here it says the unit with the order is the target of that order, if any. So basically an order targets always the unit that is using the order. But again, note its effect might list additional targets. So if it says in the text explicitly target this, target that, then obviously this would be targeting. But even if it doesn't explicitly say target, then you still would be targeting if there is a choice of the recipient. So this one is a bit ambiguous because it's from an outdated FAQ, obviously 1.6 FAQ, but it's still kind of viable, and it can be used as a reference to get the targeting rules a bit more in one paragraph rather than scattered around. And yeah, let's just look what it says. The question was, what effects target? And the answer is any ability or effect that specifically has a player selecting a unit from among multiple options would be targeting. So that's basically what we said before. And then it says, or choosing when to trigger the effect. This one seems a bit irrelevant because, I mean, I think they mean it in hindsight to orders where you say, okay, when this happens, then you trigger the order, and yeah, then but it's not really relevant in the end, because orders anyways would target the own unit already, and tactics cards already target the unit that's in the trigger. So when it says when an enemy unit attacks or whatever, then the enemy unit would be a target anyway. So this choosing when to trigger is a bit redundant. You don't really need this part of the answer, I think. Examples here: most tactics cards, as I said, and it's said in the rulebook, they require a unit to trigger, and most orders, as they require a unit, even the one they are a part of. So that's basically the same as we had before, just worded a bit differently. Then, interestingly, here they list some things of the opposite, effects that do not target, to make it even more clear. So that would be effects that are merely byproducts of an action, such as most attack abilities, Sundering Visions, attack abilities, basically everything with a sword or the bow in front. Or effects that are passively active, like in this example here, loyalty through coin, which you don't have a choice when this happens. You just take the bags and then loyalty is active. You can't choose when it happens. It happens in this fixed moment if you take the bags. And you can't choose the recipient of it. It's always the unit that has the ability, obviously, so no choice to be made, and so this wouldn't be targeting. So concerning the attack abilities, as I already said before, basically attack abilities never target. They are read as worded just from the rulebook. You could argue that the second part of Expert Duelist would target. It even says target. Let's see, we can just have a look here. See Trogo here. So there we have it from the Expert Duelist. The second choice, target one infantry attachment in the defender's unit. There is a paragraph in the rulebook. I don't have it open now, but I'm sure you would find it easily. It basically says that an attachment for all purposes counts as part of the unit. So you could argue, well, it's part of the unit, so if you target the attachment, you target the unit. But there is a ruling in the forums by Michael G. Null, who counterruled this. Bit strange maybe, but I mean, he's the designer of the game, but he counterruled this basically and said no, no targeting happening there of a unit, so the attachment is irrelevant for the rest of the game. So yeah, it couldn't be cancelled, and it isn't targeting because of the forum ruling. I will link that in the description or in the comments. Yeah, and another thing where you could say, well, this technically does target from an attack ability. If we look at the dragon attack here, the last part of it, down on the bottom, the part like which says and one enemy in short range of the defender becomes panicked. This technically is targeting, although it's part of an attack ability, but it's irrelevant for the game again because it's an innate ability, so this can't be cancelled anyways. So yeah, it doesn't matter that it's technically targeting in this case. So you can just boil it down in the end as it stands now, November 2022, that basically attack abilities never target. So let's conclude this here. It's basically these 5 points which you can use finding out is something targeting or not. First point, if it says target, it obviously targets. Easy. Tactics cards always target the unit in their trigger. Easy. Orders always target the unit using the order. Easy as well. So this one is a bit more complicated. If there is a potential choice for the player, which unit is the recipient of an effect, this unit gets targeted when chosen. So to make this a bit clearer, let's just look at an example here. The card, where is it? Stand United Brothers, for example. So it's a tactics card. It doesn't have a unit in its trigger, so no target there. Start of turn, you play it. Now it says target one friendly combat unit. Obviously there is targeting happening. It says target, and this friendly combat unit gets targeted in this moment. Then it says, and now it's a bit more unclear, but it says remove up to 4 models from other friendly combat units in long range. So here, every unit you remove models here from gets targeted as well, although it doesn't explicitly say target. But you have a choice there, or you have a potential choice there to remove models from different units, or remove it only from one unit and from another you don't. And so you are having an active choice, so every unit you are removing models from gets targeted as well. And then the rest of the card is for the first unit getting targeted. So that would be an example here for, we have both in one card here. One time it explicitly says target, one time it doesn't, but both of the effects are targeting. Maybe something that doesn't target, if you look at martial training here, obviously it's an order, so it does target the Thorn Brothers themselves. But then it says when this unit is performing a melee attack before rolling the attack dice, this attack may reroll any attack dice and the defender becomes vulnerable. So often beginners think that, or not only beginners, but many people think that, well, the vulnerable on the defender, that is targeting the defender. But in this case, it isn't, because there is no choice you can make. It's just this defender. You can't choose between different units there to become vulnerable. It's only the one that you attack, and so no choice. You can choose who you attack, sure, but you can't choose who gets vulnerable. And if it would read one engaged enemy unit becomes vulnerable, then it would target. Even if only one unit would be engaged, but there could be potentially a choice if there would be 2 enemy units engaged with you, and then it would target, but it says the defender becomes vulnerable, so it doesn't. So yeah, and our last rule basically is attack abilities never target. As I said, with we have the ruling for expert duelist. There is a ruling for Swift Strike in the forums as well, which makes it a bit clearer again that attack abilities don't target. And I can link this in the comments or in the description as well. So maybe why is this even so important to know exactly when something gets targeted or not? Well, if a unit gets targeted is a trigger in itself for other effects. So things like a Flayed Man has no secrets here. When a unit is targeted by an ability or tactics card, and then you can cancel this targeting effect. So these things are pretty powerful, these canceling cards, or can be pretty powerful. I mean, you could cancel something like Tycho. So Tycho says once per game at the start of any turn you may restore 5 wounds total across any number of friendly combat units. So it doesn't explicitly say target, but in the moment you are choosing the unit or the units that are healed, you are targeting these units. And then you could play a card like A Flayed Man Has No Secrets and cancel the effect, and then you would cancel the whole effect of Tycho. So he would have used this once per game, he can't use it anymore, but he couldn't restore any wounds. So yeah, because of that, it's quite important to get it right when something is targeting, and yeah, that's maybe why there are so many discussions around it as well. So yeah, that's basically it on the topic. I hope it helps a little bit and boils it down a little bit, makes it clearer. If you are liking it, then feel free to link it in discussions or use it as a reference. If you don't like it, then write me in the comments what I got wrong or where you have a different opinion. But I think overall that's relatively widely accepted view in the competitive and online community. A lot of people go with this, and I think it is relatively logical and not too hard to understand if you boil it down like this. Okay, that's it for the rules spotlight on targeting. Maybe see you again, and yeah, cheers, I'm out. Hello guys, Future Nachtalb here with an addition to the video. After rewatching it and speaking about the video with some people from the community, I recognize that there is a small mistake in the video concerning my point 5, attack abilities never target. So as I already said in the video, there may be exceptions to this, like the Dragonfire attack, where the last part of the attack ability of the Dragonfire does target an enemy. In the video I say it's not relevant at all, because it's innate and can't be cancelled. But cancelling abilities is not the only relevant thing that could happen here. So there could be effects like the tactics card here, Giscari Justice, where it says after a friendly combat unit is targeted by an enemy ability or tactics card, and so on, and then you can trigger an effect, and this is not cancelling the attack from the dragon, but it's an own effect in itself. And obviously you could use this card after you are attacked by a dragon and he puts down a token, then the trigger here would be viable to play the card, so it's not totally irrelevant. So just take the point 5 with a grain of salt and just always check again over point 4 if they are maybe targeting, even if it is an attack ability. But it still is easy to remember that generally attack abilities never target, but make it sure and recheck it over point 4. Okay.